Not, it gets worse. Democratic Majority Whip James Clyburn actually saying to The Hill that Omar's life experience is way, quote, more personal than the children of Holocaust survivors, so everyone should give her a break. All right, well, I'm not sure if most Americans agree with that analogy. We did lose 6 million Jewish souls were slaughtered in the Holocaust, and that's not all. Many 2020 presidential candidates, they are also supporting Omar, including Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren. So, too are many other prominent Democrats on Capitol Hill. We've got the tape. Take a look.
I think it's just part of a learning process that we have as a country, frankly.
There are different perspectives. My perspective is that her comments were inappropriate, but that she has apologized and that we should move on.
I'm looking to get rid of anti-Semitism, not looking to punish anybody.
Ilhan Omar is a refugee from Somalia. She comes from a different culture. She has things to learn.
She apologizes again and again and again. Now, this is really now the party of literally accepting what is pretty virulent anti-Semitism, bigotry, and perhaps most alarming and most telling, part of this entire scandal is that a House resolution that was to condemn anti-Semitism, it didn't have enough Democratic support to even bring it to a vote because they knew it wouldn't pass. Well, that was until Speaker Pelosi allowed Congresswoman Omar access to literally help in the editing of the new resolution. You can't make this up, and it doesn't mention her name. And this bill condemned pretty much every horrible group of people: white supremacists, neo-Nazis, KKK, white supremacists who murdered 9 African Americans in 2015, condemning bigotry against Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, and, also condemned anti-Semitism. Didn't mention her name, not once. Now, the very reason why this condemnation was to be written in the first place. It also made no mention of Congresswoman Tlaib, who wrote a column for Louis Farrakhan's racist and anti-Semitic newspaper. It also made no mentions of the various Democrats who associate with Linda Sarsour, another virulent anti-Semite. She has publicly supported Sharia law and female genital mutilation, like 2020 contenders Kirsten Gillibrand, Bernie Sanders. Kirsten Gillibrand was on stage with Sarsour. Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu. And then, of course, Representatives Ocasio-Cortez and Tlaib and so many more. Where is the moral, simple strength to just stand up to this bigotry? Where's Nancy Pelosi? Now, there's a reason why she's acting this way. And the truth and the reality is she really knows deep down in her heart she is no longer Speaker. She lives in complete fear and panic and is totally and completely controlled by this fringe, radical, socialist, anti-Semitic elements in her party. She knows that if she doesn't accommodate their extreme wins, in this case of Congresswoman Omar, Tlaib, or Ocasio-Cortez, she will be overthrown from that all-important position. So tonight, Nancy Pelosi is merely the Speaker of the House in name only. The radicals are pulling the strings, and it's a pretty scary picture. And today we learned that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been hit with a brand new complaint. Now, this time over her boyfriend's email account. Now, the ethics complaint alleges that Ocasio-Cortez actually obtained an official mail.house.gov email address for her boyfriend by falsely designating him a staff member. This is now the third recent complaint filed against Ocasio-Cortez. She also received 2 FEC complaints, including one accusing her of illegally funneling thousands and thousands of dollars in campaign funds to her boyfriend. Another alleging that her campaign manager improperly funneled nearly $1 million from the campaign to private business. That one in particular, but they're all extremely serious issues that could result in charges as it relates to campaign violations. That's if we have equal justice under the law. And according to reports, Ocasio-Cortez may soon face even more legal trouble, with an impending ethics complaint surrounding the improper, literally commingling of campaign and government social media accounts in order to raise money. Like every other socialist, she appears to be pretty corrupt to the core, especially now with money involved. And tonight, she represents everything that is wrong with this new radical, extreme Democratic Socialist Party. A party that is excusing their own bigotry and anti-Semitism, a party that is pushing the most radical socialist economic policies that will guarantee America spirals into a depression. It's that serious. a party that has gone so far to the left, they won't even hold a debate on the Fox News channel. By the way, I won't be hosting. Don't worry. Let not your hearts be troubled. A pretty gutless move by Democrats. And yesterday, President Trump, he responded on Twitter, writing, quote, Democrats just blocked at Fox News from holding a debate. Good. And I think I'll do the same with the fake news networks and the radical left Democrats in the general election debates. Well, that makes sense, given that every single second of every 24-hour day, these other networks are totally, completely dedicated to one thing and one thing only, trashing, smearing, besmirching, and destroying President Trump and anyone that likes him. And I'm sure these networks would love to hold future Republican debates, despite, of course, constantly dehumanizing and lying about President Trump and never admitting it. In reality, we know that 2020 Democrats, they're just too afraid to face real questions from fair and balanced journalists here on the Fox News channel and our news division. Journalists who don't buy into the conspiracy theories and fake news that will ask fair and tough questions. You know what? They're not in the tank like CNN and MSNBC. On this network, we distinguish opinion and news. Obviously, I am a talk show host, and I've explained that job for all the people that want to listen. They don't seem to understand what it is we do. Journalists who won't feed questions to their favorite candidates ahead of time. Remember, CNN did that for Hillary Clinton. Remember in 2016, Hillary Clinton's campaign totally ignored huge blocks of voters that she considered deplorable. The rest is history. Maybe this radical crop of 2020 Democrats, maybe they'll learn from her mistakes. I tend to doubt it. Okay, tonight, before we get to our guests, we have an important update. Hannity watch on Mueller's witch hunt. Well, today, Paul Manafort was sentenced to 47 months in prison. Now, that's just shy of 4 years. Now, this is for tax fraud, bank fraud, other crimes, not at all, as the judge pointed out in very strong terms today, nothing related to Trump-Russia collusion. Nothing to even do with the time that Manafort worked for Trump, which was, I think, maybe 100 days. Now, Manafort could have been sentenced to 19 to 24 years if Mueller got his way. Obviously, they wanted him to die in prison for cheating on his taxes and lying on loan applications. By the way, free advice, pay your taxes. The federal judge called those guidelines excessive. The judge has also gone out of his way reminding people this case has nothing whatsoever to do with the Trump campaign and Russia collusion. This is a witch hunt. Remember the Judge Ellis in this case had said, oh, they want to put the screws to Manafort so he'll start to sing or compose. We know what this is all about. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. All true. And now 4 years in jail for Manafort. Now, that's not stopping
Trump on his record prior to being president of the United States. That's all you had to judge him on. I said after the election that he is my president. He is all of our presidents, and it is in our best interest that our president succeeds. And I want him to succeed. And I said over and over again, I hope that I'm wrong. And if I am, I'll be the first to admit it. Once he got into office, now he's the president. So now I'm not judging him on the past. I'm judging on what he's doing. And I call balls and strikes. And quite honestly, Sean, early on, I said, I never thought he would do that. I never thought he would do that. I never thought he would do that. By the time he got to Israel, he was proving me wrong every step of the way on his policies. I was happy, thrilled to say he's doing the things he said he would do. I think the problem has been since he got into office on policies, the Republican Party. The Republican Party, he is the greatest misdirection of all time. All he has to do is just tweet something, and the media goes crazy. They could have passed anything, and he would have signed it. They didn't. I ask, what's wrong with the Republican Party?
You know, to me, there are way too many Republicans. We learned this over Obamacare. Show votes for repeal and replace, 65 of them. Real votes, spineless, visionless, feckless. Nothing.
Same thing with the border.
I'm not a
Same
conservative
thing with the border.
either. You know, the only thing is, and I might have had an advantage that you didn't have, and like you, I went out on a limb. I told my conservative audience what I knew about Donald Trump. And if you looked at his record, gave money to Democrats, even Hillary Clinton, said nice things about Democrats. And I always knew that that was him playing the political game. He even said it. I'm playing the game in New York so I can keep my buildings going up, electricians, plumbers, steel workers working, and I'm still in business. Because otherwise you'd be shut out. As you look at the things he's done, and the way I look at it, biggest tax cuts, conservative justices, fighting like with everything he's got to get the border wall because he made the promise. Israel is another. Getting out of the Iranian deal. Even the concessions that he got,
standing for abortion, saying that he's against socialism. I was there at the State of the Union, and I watched the Democrats. I was sitting right across from the president in the back, and that's the way that thing should be shot. You should be able to see who's texting, who's laughing, who's poking each other, who's mocking. Sean, I was in the State of the Union, and
I never
thought I would say this.
Heck, you have connections.
I don't know. I never thought I would say this, but I left there thinking I don't think I would have had the restraint that Donald Trump had. They were hissing him. They were mocking him the whole time. And you didn't see it or hear it on television because I went back and watched. There is a clique now in the Democratic Party that are as radical can come.
Well,
I remember when I was told I was a racist for saying that people were socialist and the Democratic Party was going to become anti-Semitic and socialist. They'd take their mask off, was my quote, because that's who they are and they want to say that. Well, here we are. And we are now at a point where if you... Go ahead.
Well, let me then ask this. You see the new Green Deal. No planes, no cows, no cars, no oil, no gas. The problem is it's not just one congresswoman. It's 100 Democrats at least and 2020 contenders. This is real for them. And then you add to that this absolute disgrace. They can't even condemn Congresswoman Omar in this case today. And you look at where they stand. And more importantly, I think the biggest abuse of power, corruption scandal in history as it relates to the deep state, those at the top of the FBI, not rank and file, those in the Justice Department, what they have done and still not held accountable, but I hear they will be.
I will just tell you this. The new Green Deal is one of the most frightening things because if you actually read the bill, forget about the cars and stuff. They don't care. They don't care about the green thing. The second part of that is the fundamental transformation of our economic system, and that is in there. They are looking to transform our system. When they say the free market system doesn't work and it's not going to be around long, they mean it. And Democrats, the good Democrats in the center of the country, who are not just playing politics, they've got to wake up to who is the Democratic Party today. These people are serious radicals. They have serious issues with race and anti-Semitism. They are serious socialists. They are not talking about Sweden. That is a free market with a lot of welfare on top of it. It's not a socialist country.
Well said. Last question, Glenn, if you don't mind. Will you vote for Trump in 2020?
You know, Sean, I think when you are looking at avowed socialists that want to end the free market, they're not even talking about abortion now. We're talking about third trimester abortions. When you are sitting here talking about infanticide, when you look at who these people are, there's no way anyone who is standing up against those guys and actually has a spine, yes. Now, will I say I'm going to vote for him? No, and here's why. Because anyone I ever say I'm voting for, it's the kiss of death. So please don't ask. If he wants to win,
one time I endorsed Joe Lieberman. He calls me and says, "Don't endorse me. You're not helping. You're killing me."
Right. I know.
All right. Good to have you back on Fox. Thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
All right. When we come back, Hannity investigation. Wait till you find out. We have the evidence about Joe Biden and his past and how it will haunt him. Karl Rove on the state of the Republican Party. Later, Steve Scalise, you won't believe what Congressman Tlaib said about him. He is here tonight to respond. And we have our closing arguments and villain of the day straight ahead.
Trace Gallagher, former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort, sentenced to 47 months in prison after being found guilty last year for bank and tax fraud. Manafort's conviction makes him the first campaign associate of the president to be found guilty by a jury as part of special counsel Robert Mueller's probe. Federal sentencing guidelines called for about 20 years, but the judge found it to be excessive for the case. Manafort still faces more prison time in another case. Well, the House passing a bipartisan resolution condemning anti-Semitism and other bigotry. While it does not mention Minnesota Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar by name, it came in direct response to controversial remarks made by her. Last week, Omar made remarks claiming pro-Israel lawmakers were pushing an allegiance to a foreign country. I'm Trace Gallagher. News breaks out, we'll break in. Now back to Tucker Carlson.
Last month, the residents of Martin County, Kentucky, received an ominous warning on Facebook from their sheriff, John Kirk. Here's what the message said, quote, "Law enforcement as we have known for the last 4 years will not exist. We are broke. Lock your doors, load your guns, and get you a barking, biting dog. If the sheriff's office can't protect you, who will?" That's real. Imagine hearing that from your own sheriff, from your own government. In Martin County, Kentucky, the median household income is $18,000 a year. Almost half the children there live in poverty. It's one of the poorest places in the United States. The county is so broke, the sheriff's department can no longer provide 24-hour police protection. Keep in mind that in Martin County, the opioid epidemic is still raging. They badly need help from law enforcement. More than 50 years ago, Lyndon Johnson traveled to Martin County, Kentucky, to pitch his war on poverty. Clearly, his solutions didn't work, obviously, but at least the goal was right. LBJ wanted to improve America. That was laudable. That's the point of running America, to improve it. Our current leaders, not interested, not even a little bit. How do you know? Well, consider that at the very same time that Martin County, Kentucky ran out of money and could no longer afford to protect its own people, Washington was still sending huge amounts of money to Afghanistan to hire thousands more cops, and we're still doing it. Since 2002, Congress has appropriated more than $78 billion in U.S. tax money to strengthen the Afghan army and expand its police forces. Even now, Afghanistan's cops are getting about $1 billion a year, most of which, of course, is completely wasted, as is most money we send to Afghanistan. Just 0.1% of the money we send to Afghanistan could pay for policing in Martin County, Kentucky for a decade. Apparently that has not occurred to Max Boot or Bill Kristol or anyone else making foreign policy in Washington. They care about Afghans far more than they care about